Elizabeth's primary objective in life is to marry a wealthy man and steal all of his money. Elizabeth is presently dating the son of a very wealthy businessman. So one day, she proudly leaves her job at school since she no longer needs it. When she returns home, her lover and his mother are already waiting for him. In an unforeseen twist of fate, the man informs her that he no longer wants to marry her. He has finally realized that Elizabeth is just concerned with his money. For months, she has been stealing money from his wallet, his workplace, and even his mother's room in order to purchase herself nice items. Elizabeth attempts to convince him that it isn't true, but he refuses to listen and rushes out in a rage. Because of this, Elizabeth is in a difficult situation. She not only lost her dream of becoming wealthy, but she also lost her job. For a few months, Elizabeth seeks jobs, but no one employs her since she isn't particularly good at anything. She eventually gets over herself and returns to her former work at the junior high school. On her first day, she encounters Amy Squirrel, whom she used to despise, and the two insult each other. Elizabeth then returns to her classroom, where the kids are delighted to see her. She, on the other hand, was unconcerned. She does not even educate them. Instead, she begins to have breakfast there. When the pupils want a fresh lesson, she switches on the television and forces them to watch Stand and Deliver, claiming that it will boost their grades. She then pulls her jacket over her face and falls asleep in class. During lunch, Elizabeth runs into Lynn, another teacher, and her lum buddy at school. As they discuss their lives, Elizabeth informs her companion that she wants to get breast augmentation surgery to make herself more attractive to wealthy men. Meanwhile, we meet Russell, the gym instructor at the school. He's had a huge crush on Elizabeth since the beginning, but she's never spoken to him. This is because he lacks the one quality she seeks in a man: money. One day, an attractive young man named Scott begins working as a substitute teacher at the school. When Elizabeth discovers Scott's wealth, she begins following him around. When the opportunity arises, she approaches him and presents herself. Then she dupes him into telling her he's single. Scott claims that he and his girlfriend had just broken up and then displays a photo of her. Elizabeth becomes jealous when she watches this, since the girl has a large chest. She also believes that Scott prefers such women, so she decides to get breast augmentation surgery. In the next scenario, Elizabeth visits a facility to complete the surgical papers, but when she learns that the procedure would cost her a whopping $9,000, she immediately cancels. Elizabeth doesn't even have $50 in her bank account, so she'll have to wait for now. Elizabeth then returns to her ex-boyfriend and demands $9,000 in restitution for the breakdown of their marriage, but even he says no and hangs up, which frustrates her. The following morning, Elizabeth is in class as usual when one of her students approaches her and asks if she wants her vehicle cleaned. She goes on to remark that the annual vehicle wash will be a lot of fun for everyone in the class. Elizabeth isn't paying attention to what she's saying, but when the student claims they earned $6,000 last year, she goes to the principal's office and begins charming him with her beauty. She urges him to put her in charge of the car wash instead of Amy as he begins to grow aroused. He immediately agrees, which makes her quite pleased. Elizabeth goes to the party the following morning wearing the most exposed outfit she can find. She then begins cleaning the automobiles while spraying herself with water. The ladies are all astonished, but the men are relieved to see what they see. Even a police officer is smitten with her attractiveness and smashes into another vehicle. Elizabeth then begs the boys for additional money, claiming that her children's school is in severe need of funds. Surprisingly, the strategy works, and she has earned about $10,000 by the end of the day. Elizabeth keeps half of it for herself and sends the other half to school. Meanwhile, Amy learns of this and storms out to confront the director. Amy claims Elizabeth is stealing school funds and demands that she be punished, but the director refuses to act unless he gets irrefutable evidence that she did it. The next day at school is the annual gathering of parents and teachers. There are a number of irate parents in Elizabeth's class. As predicted, they are all dissatisfied with how their children are being educated. They question Elizabeth about why she never gives lectures and constantly plays movies in class. She just tells him, "Don't tell me how to do my work." When the conference is over, an anxious parent approaches Elizabeth and offers her $200 in private. He requests that she pay more attention attention to his kid. This provides our astute main character with another strategy. She meets with each parent one at a time and accepts money from them, promising them that she will give their children extra care. Elizabeth now just needs $2,000 extra to pay for the operation to increase the size of her breasts. Elizabeth likewise rejects the gym teacher's advances, although she eventually becomes friends with him. Amy, on the other hand, has begun to express interest in Scott, who is wealthy and attractive. They've become close and are always together, which makes Elizabeth envious. Lynn, her closest friend, informs her one day that the instructors are planning a competition at school. Whoever gets their children to do well on the forthcoming state exam will get $5,000 in cash. Elizabeth is overjoyed when she learns this and decides to finally begin educating her children. So she arrives at class early the following day and forces everyone to read their books, which surprises them. Elizabeth also ensures that students have assignments and jobs to do every day. She won't allow them to chat with each other, even in class. This goes on for a few days, and the kids improve significantly, but not enough to pass the state exam, which is coming up in a few days. Elizabeth is so desperate to win the $5,000 prize money that she decides to take matters into her own hands. That night, she dresses attractively and approaches Carl, a state professor whose duty it is to create and distribute exam questions. The scheme succeeds as the guy becomes thrilled and immediately takes her to his apartment. Elizabeth puts sleeping tablets in his drink as he goes to his room to get ready. Carl fell asleep after drinking it. Elizabeth takes advantage of the circumstance and steals his questions to present to her children. The test results are released the following week, and all of her children pass with flying colors. As a result, she is the winner. Elizabeth wins the $5,000 cash award, which will allow her to finally receive the operation. So she doesn't waste any time and rushes to the office to make an appointment. But the following day, she is disappointed to learn that Scott is now dating Amy. They seem to be really in love with each other. Elizabeth is irritated that her adversary is interfering with her plans once again, but she refuses to give up. Scott and Amy will lead a tour of the school for all of the students the following week. When Elizabeth learns of this, she devises a smart strategy. She stuffs some drugs inside an apple and leaves it on Amy's desk, knowing how much she loves apples. Amy nibbles on the apple as usual, without even questioning where it came from. She has blotches and allergies all over her face at the end of the day. The director sends Elizabeth on the trip instead of her because he fears she may give it to the other pupils. In the next scene, Elizabeth takes advantage of her opportunity and approaches Scott. They even had a secret romance that night. Amy begins seeking indicators that Elizabeth should be expelled from school in another location. She arrives at class and attempts to search her desk, but most of the drawers are locked. So Amy swaps desks with Elizabeth and has a janitor break open the doors. She is overjoyed to discover the exam papers that Elizabeth stole from Carl. Amy then goes to the principal's office and tells him everything Elizabeth did to help her children achieve high scores. This time, the director buys her account, but he also informs her that if Carl doesn't come clean, he will dismiss Elizabeth. So Amy goes to Carl's office the following day and threatens to inform everyone if he doesn't tell her everything. She threatens him with telling everyone about all the awful things he's done if he doesn't. Finally, the poor man caves in. Elizabeth and the kids are having a fantastic time on vacation. She also gives one of the lads being picked on her underpants, making him more renowned. When Russell sees this, he is overjoyed. He compliments Elizabeth on her generosity, and she compliments him on his honesty and beautiful looks. Amy appears and mocks Elizabeth by claiming that she will be arrested. This abruptly stops their love conversation. When our main character learns this, she realizes that the stolen exam papers have been discovered, so she devises her own method. When she comes home, she pays her roommate and instructs him to deliver a box to Earl. When the second man opens the gift, he discovers a slew of sexual images of himself that Elizabeth took while he was away. She now wants him to tell a falsehood about what occurred in return for her keeping his images hidden. Carl is in a difficult situation since both of the ladies are blackmailing him with their wants. But after much deliberation, he chooses to assist Elizabeth and lies about having never met her. Elizabeth then stands out, claiming that someone at the school has been taking drugs in class class. It's apparent that she already knew Amy had switched seats while she was out. The exam papers are in the bottom drawer, and the medications are in the top drawer. Amy has no idea what's inside this box, since it's still unopened. Because of what Elizabeth stated, a swarm of police officers came into the school and began searching all of the desks. When Amy's time comes, the drugs are discovered, and she is immediately sent to jail. This effectively puts an end to the two women's feud. Scott invites Elizabeth out on a date and tells her he likes her in the last scene, but he is taken aback when she replies, no. Elizabeth claims to have a wise, kind, and gorgeous guy in her life. She then goes to Russell and gives him a passionate kiss. Elizabeth also discontinues having her breasts expanded since she no longer wants to date wealthy men. Elizabeth declares at the conclusion of the film that she will be a serious teacher